episode of season 3 of Poopology, and unfortunately my co-host Claire, or fortunately perhaps, has now moved away to New Zealand. So I have some new co-hosts this season, and my first co-host is Chris. So Chris, introduce yourself.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. It's going to be very hard shoes to fill. I'm Chris O. I am an American expat that recently moved to London, in July. So 3-4 months ago now.
Yep.
And have been navigating the waters here.
Fresh off the
boat. Yes, absolutely. Loving every minute of it. Yeah, excited to go on this journey of having amazing conversations with incredible people and learning as well too.
Great. We're very excited to have you on the show. So this week we're talking about Lost in Translation. So I have with me also my guest for today.
Hello, I'm Kelly. So also just moved here from New York. I moved in May, so have a few more months under my belt, but also still navigating my way through the waters.
So a perfect guest for Lost in Translation.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. So we're going to kick things off with our poopy moments of the week, like we usually do. So I will start stuff off. Basically, my poopy moment of the week is actually relevant to Lost in Translation, I think. Mm-hmm. So many years ago, many moons ago, I did live in the US for a period of time. And before I actually moved out there, I would go and come back a lot to set myself up, basically, because I was trying to set up a business and I was trying to set up a life and make friends and all that sort of stuff. So during these little commutes back and forth is, I guess, when I realized what a difference in culture and language the two countries actually have, even though you might not think it to begin with. So I used to work in the music industry. So I remember on one of my trips being in LA in a club. I was there just to have a chat with the promoter of this club about bringing some talent from the UK to do some gigs and that sort of stuff. So this was quite a big and quite an important club in the LA scene. There was lots of A&R guys from Sony Epic Records and stuff like that going there regularly and picking up new talent. So it was a big opportunity. So I went into this meeting at the club before, one of the nights that they had on. So very nervous. And this gentleman comes out. We have a brief conversation. And at some point he said to me, would you like a drink? So I was kind of like, no, I'm fine. We continued talking, and again, a little bit while later, he was kind of like, you sure you don't want a drink? And I said, no, that's fine. I'll probably go and have a Coke later. I didn't think that meant anything other than Coca-Cola. And he kind of looked at me a bit strangely, and he was like, are you sure you don't want a drink? And I was like, yeah, later. I'll have a Coke later. And he was like, okay. And I thought, why is this strange? Is it because I'm not drinking alcohol? Am I supposed to do that? And I started getting a bit paranoid, and I was thinking, should I be drinking alcohol? I'm not quite sure what I should be doing. Anyway, we continued talking, and he said, I've just got to go pop back and see my artists who are coming in for the night. If you want to just sit here and wait for me. So I said, actually, I'm gonna take this opportunity and just go outside for a fag. And he was like, he had the most terrified look on his face, and I was thinking, I don't know what is wrong with this guy. Why is he? I know LA people are very healthy and fit, and they don't like smoking, but there's no reason to look at me like that. I don't have 5 heads. Anyway, so I go outside, I have my cigarette, I come back, and he's like, oh, you're back? And I said, yes. And he said, I thought you'd be gone a while. And I was like, well, it doesn't take that long. And he said, and then he was looking at me, and he's like, really? I would have expected it to take longer. And I said, have you never smoked before? And he went, smoked what? And I was like, a cigarette. And he goes, is that what you were doing? And I said, yes. And he went, oh, but you said you were going to go and get a fag. And I said, yeah, exactly, have a smoke. And he's like, is that what a fag means? I thought you were going out to find yourself a girlfriend, or I don't know. I couldn't quite understand what you meant. And I said, why would I? And in my head I'm thinking, why would I be getting a girlfriend? I don't understand what this
guy is
5 minutes.
And in 5 minutes, exactly.
Exactly. So anyway, we finish our conversation. Needless to say, I'm sure he thought I was very weird, and I thought he was very weird. And then some of these other promoter friends of mine came into the club, and I said, oh, I know you guys said this guy could help me with my business, but he's very strange. And they were kind of like, well, why do you think he's strange? I said, I told him I'm going to go out and get a fag, and he was talking to me about finding myself a lesbian girlfriend. Like, I don't quite understand what
And
this
getting
is all
some
about.
Coke.
Yeah, and I said about Coke, and and they started laughing. They're like, oh my God, Eve, that doesn't mean cigarettes in this country, and you should have been more specific and said like, Coca-Cola or Pepsi or something like that rather than Coke. He probably thought you were some Coke addict, lesbian, like just hanging around.
What a first impression.
I know. So this was possibly like maybe my third or fourth meeting in the US, and needless to say, I learned some lessons about what to say and what not to say.
Was he able to help you with your business?
Well, I did have to go back and explain myself because when my friend said this, and then because all that time I was just like, this guy is weird. But then I realized actually, obviously, he probably thought I was weird.
Yeah.
So I thought I should go back and explain myself. So I did go back and say, look, by Coke, I meant Coca-Cola. And fag in England means cigarettes. So I don't take Coke.
I'm not a druggie.
Not a Coke addict.
I don't pick up random people. Even if I was a lesbian, I wouldn't just pop
publicly.
out.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So it was quite funny. We did become friends afterwards, luckily.
Oh, good.
I think he found it amusing. Everyone actually was quite impressed by my funny language, and I made friends because to them it was unusual that I said some weird things, and the accent. I find the Americans love the British accent.
We love it.
Yeah.
I want to adopt the British accent.
Yeah. So I did, I think, meet a lot of people that perhaps I wouldn't have otherwise met because of my accent and my weird words. Weird words. Normal here, weird over there.
I had this similar experience with the fag. You were with me. You weren't physically with me, but we were had a girls' night out, and
I was physically smoking them afterwards, though.
Okay, yes, but there was another girlfriend of ours, and I hadn't met her yet. So it's going to be the first time, like, we all meet. And Kelly met up with her first. And this girlfriend calls me on the phone because I was running a little bit late. And she goes, Chris, do me a favor. Can you pick up some fags for me? I'm like, what? I'm like, what? The same probably reaction that this gentleman had with you. And I'm like, what in the world are fags? She's like, cigarettes. I'm like, oh, okay. First of all, I haven't even met this girl. She's asking me to pick up cigarettes or fags. I was a little perplexed for a moment.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, Chris, tell us about your poopy moment.
My poopy moment. Okay, so this past weekend, I was in lovely countryside of Royal Turnbridge Wells. Oh. Love it. A friend of mine lives in that area, and she picked me up, and we were in the car driving, I forget where, probably to a pub, etc., and showing me the beautiful countryside. Absolutely loved it, and we had music on. And, typical me, I'm humming along to every single song on the radio and humming, singing, whatever. And then at one point, probably the third song into it, she's like, Chris, you really sing to every single song, but kind of in this like passive aggressive tone. And I looked at her, I'm like, yeah, I got a problem with it. She's like, it just annoys me. Like, it just, I can't deal with sound. And like, in her defense, I'm completely tone deaf. Like, I'm horrible, but, like,
still, you
killed my vibe.
Yourself. Yeah.
Like, I'm in the countryside, we're cruising along, like, I don't know, when I'm cruising along with my friends or whoever in a car, music on, like, I want to be in the moment.
What were you singing?
Sing along with me. I was just humming, girlfriend. But, like, it was poopy because it just killed the vibe. Like, I was in such a good mood, like, enjoying the music, and because she was annoyed by sounds and
I mean, I'm intrigued that you were in a good mood going to Tunbridge Wells. To be honest, I'm quite impressed.
It's a lovely area.
I'm impressed.
It's because she's not from around here.
Exactly.
It's a lovely area.
I'm in Tunbridge Wells, and we're
Only
like
person excited to go there.
you, I'm still new to the country, so everything is exciting.
That's really funny because actually being an American here, and I met somebody who's a friend of a friend. He owns this coffee shop, down in South London where I live. And he's like, oh, I always loved Americans. They really, they lack the knowledge, but they really have the enthusiasm.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I tend to lack the enthusiasm, but actually think that I have the knowledge.
Yeah.
So
You're
hopefully
British
I'll
at heart.
fit in fine.
Yeah. Clearly you're English at heart. Yeah. We're kind of like that as a people. We don't
Right.
get excited, really.
Yeah, no.
And I think
It's
a lot of
more-
the time that's like a big difference, isn't it, in culture?
Absolutely.
In fact, we get a bit scared when we meet Americans because they're like, "Oh my god!" and we're like,
yeah.
"What is happening?"
The phrase "Oh my
You're
God" gets thrown around so
right
much.
about it. And it's not actually just the Brits. It's, I think, a European thing because I have a few European friends now, like some French, etc., and they all say the same thing. Like, Americans are very emphatic and enthusiastic,
Yeah.
and me particularly, like, I'm actually more on the extreme side of those Americans.
Yeah.
I'm on the opposite side.
Yeah.
Like I said, you're one of us.
Exactly.
There's some
But
genes
you knew
in
that
there,
already.
Obviously. There's
Oh,
some
When I
genes in
first
I've
there.
been
met
trying
her-
to move here forever just
Yeah.
because
Oh, really?
I always got along with my British friends so well, and they're like, London suits you, get over here, you know. So
Yeah.
this has been, I've been trying to come here for a long time, and then
Yeah.
even dating a few
Yeah.
British men also. It's
Yeah.
like, it just seemed to click, so it was like, all right.
But you're the
Seems
one
to
like
be,
teaching me some British slang, and she was the first one who taught me what is it? The Sunday roast?
Oh yes.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm like,
I was like, how do you not know what Sunday
Yeah.
roast is? Yeah, you've been trying to move here.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
Marmite and eggs and soldiers.
oh yeah, I didn't know any of this.
sausage and mash.
Yeah.
You must know fish and chips. At
Yeah,
least.
yes, give me
You
a little
must know-
credit.
You must know that one. Yeah.
That one's a very commercialized.
Yeah.
A few
So-
things like that.
Tell us about your poopy moment.
What was interesting, like the most recent was on Saturday. I had my very first London friend. I used to work for a company that was based in London, and I worked in the New York office. And my friend Jerry and I, she worked out here, I worked there. We became really good friends.
I just want to interrupt you there. I like how you said the most recent.
Yeah.
Meaning that there's obviously quite a lot. But this
very
is
long
the most
story.
recent.
I'll give you because it's like it's fresh in my mind still. So I've been trying to meet up with her. She's now had a baby and lives out in the country, and I forget the name of the town. It starts with a W. So I made plans to go visit her over the weekend, and I was going to stay at her place overnight. And I needed to take several trains and walk to the overground, take the tube to another, pick up another train, and then walk to Marylebone Station.
Okay.
So the journey just to get to Marylebone Station was an hour, maybe a little more.
Oh my God! Wow.
So finally I make it. I get off at, I think it was Baker Street, and I'm walking to Marylebone Station, and she's like, did you make it? Well, I'm trying to hit the 112 from
Yeah.
Marylebone to go another 50-minute train to go out to her.
Yeah.
Finally make it, get all the way there, walk into the train station, buy my ticket. I have about 7 minutes to purchase my ticket and get on this train. All of a sudden alarms are going off. They evacuate everyone. They're like, get out,
Oh
get
my
out. Like
God.
they're going
Oh.
like this, and they're like moving everybody out, and they're like, there was some kind of fire or some kind of fire
Oh, wow.
drill, if
Oh my
not.
God.
And, everyone's standing outside. They close the gates. They just completely close up shop. They're like, the fire brigade's on their way. And I'm like,
Whoa.
well, I don't know if this is a poopy moment, but it definitely is the universe telling me that this is not going to happen
Yeah.
for the 112.
That's
So
pretty crappy. Yeah.
well, so then I'm like, all right, I said, let's not give up before we cross the finish line here. I said, I'm going to go grab a cup of coffee. Went and did that, hung out for a little bit, and then there's a wine shop, and I'm like, oh, I'll get her a bottle of wine, get ready, go back, and I'm waiting in the crowd. We wait 45 minutes. They finally open the gates, and I'm like, okay, I'm in, I got this. I'm going to go get my ticket. But because there was this massive crowd of people getting their ticket at the same time,
Yeah.
I was like, and I'm sitting there trying to figure out the ticket booth and hurrying up, and they're calling
Oh my
my train for the next
God.
one, and I'm like, I just couldn't get it in time, and I'm like,
So what did you?
and then all of a
did you
sudden,
get
I'm
there?
literally watching the train pull away, and I'm like, are you kidding me right now? So I just called her. I'm like, okay, this isn't happening. There's some reason why this wasn't meant to be.
Wow.
I'm just gonna stay here, and I literally walked out and found a cocktail bar and just parked it by myself. And
You were like,
I need one after that.
we had 3 cocktails, and she's like, you know what? I'm coming into the city. I'm coming to London on Thursday. I said, I'll meet you there. And that's like we
God.
rescheduled for Thursday evening, and I'm like, I'm just gonna call it a day. And that was it. So had to abort the mission.
They abort them.
That does sound pretty
Yeah, then it just
poopy.
turned into a big party at home.
Yeah.
So started in Marylebone by myself.
Yeah.
Went home. My neighbor was having a big to-do with,
Oh,
you know,
wow.
all the other neighbors and friends.
Yeah.
So then just continued there, and it turned into this big party.
4 o'clock in the morning, you send a selfie to your friend.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
so sorry I couldn't make it.
Yeah, basically.
But I'm having a
Drunken
good time.
messages.
Yeah.
I just drank the wine that I bought you. It's basically what happened.
Seriously.
Oh my
Yeah,
God, that
so
does
that's
sound
that.
pretty
Yeah,
poopy.
so that's my
Yeah.
moment.
I mean, I think everyone who's ever lived in London has a train-related poopy
Oh,
moment.
yeah.
We're notoriously have train issues in this
Yeah.
country.
Yeah.
And I don't actually remember that in the US. Well, not in New
Really?
York anyway. The
New
US
York-
is quite massive, but
Yeah.
you know.
New York, though, we're definitely accustomed to train issues
I
all the
don't
time.
ever-
Yes,
remember
but
train
I think it's
issues.
much worse here.
Really?
If I can be honest.
Okay,
There's
but-
always something here.
Excuse
Yeah.
me.
You
I
Never
lived
feel
off
like
the
you
L
just have
train.
to- You just have to get used
Was
to
that
it.
a rubbish line?
Oh, it is notorious in the state of New York
Right.
that it's one of the worst trains. It's the only major train that connects you from New York,
Yeah.
Manhattan to Williamsburg, like
Okay.
Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And when that thing shuts down, and it's always constant work, and about 2 years ago, there was major news that they were going to shut down the entire L train
Oh, wow.
for, I think, about a year.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so it was mad chaos and controversy about you're gonna basically handicap the entire
Yeah.
workforce and people in between, and finally they actually didn't go through with it
Yeah.
because and even when they made that announcement, there was a mad exodus of people from Brooklyn moving out,
Yeah.
trying to figure out how are they gonna transition their
Yeah.
life.
I mean, come to think of it, maybe I was lucky because I lived in Manhattan and worked in Manhattan. So I
Exactly.
didn't really, and I found Manhattan really small.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
pretty
it's more
small.
compressed.
So when
It's more
people were
compressed,
kind of
yeah.
we need to get on the train. I'm like, you can walk it.
You can
It's
just
like
walk
2
it.
Yeah.
blocks.
Your
Yeah.
brain
It's
breaks
so-
down. Guess what?
Yeah.
I have 2 legs right here. I'll get there
exactly.
eventually.
Yeah.
So I used to walk most of the time. I
Right.
didn't really
Me too.
need to get on trains that
Yeah.
often, you know, unless I was going very far out. But
Yeah.
most places, I felt like you could walk to.
Totally.
You know, some
Absolutely.
Yeah.
places took a bit longer, but
Yeah.
you
I
can
would
get
much
there
rather
eventually.
walk than be stuffed on a train,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Totally agree.
Absolutely. They
Yeah.
even call the N and the R the never and the rarely because they say they never come. But
Oh, I
it's
didn't
still
know
not
that.
even as bad as London trains,
Yeah.
I've noticed.
Yeah, yeah. Here, I think things are more sprawled out. So unless you
Mm.
kind of live in Zone 1 and work in Zone 1 and hang out in Zone 1, you have no choice but to get a train.
To get it.
Right.
And
Yeah.
the trains can be pretty bad. So, I mean, I live one stop from here. So, and you would think that would never be a problem, but it is.
But it is.
It
Because
is.
I live
yeah.
across the river, and the only way I can come,
Oh.
the only way I can come here is either get that one train, one stop.
Uh-huh.
So if something's wrong with it, that's it. Or I have to go all the way to Tower Bridge from where I am, which
Oh
is
my
closer
gosh.
to sort of Greenwich.
Yeah.
end. So I have to go all the way there, get a bus, cross the bridge, and then get another bus because there's no actual direct bus either. Or I have to go around the other way and go through the Dartford Tunnel somehow. But literally, it could take me 2 hours to
Holy
get to
cow.
work. Yeah, and
Right.
with that one stop, it still takes me 45 minutes to get in every morning.
Are
I'd
you
like to
kidding
point out.
me?
Yeah.
I believe
So
you.
to get here in 40 minutes or 35 to 40 minutes, I basically leave my house at 6:30 in the morning. So if I left at 8 or something like
Yeah.
that, I would.
Oh,
I'd
you
be
would never-
late.
yeah.
I'd be late.
It'll probably take you 2
Because
hours.
it's rush hour.
Rush
and
hour,
You can't
yeah.
get on the train, so 5, 6 trains go past, and you're just standing on the platform like this because the train comes full.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's maybe
You can't get
one gap, and
Yeah.
you know.
And you're
600
this
people.
squish right
Yeah.
next to them. Yeah.
So, well, that's if you can even, get
Get
on
it.
that one gap. So it can take a really, really long time. So I choose to come to work at a ridiculously early hour
Yeah.
and generally leave
smart.
late. Yeah, just so I can avoid the,
Yeah.
the rush hour on the
Right.
train.
That's your sanity you're saving.
Yeah, yeah.
The
think it's worth
traffic's
it.
not much better either if you choose to
No,
drive.
Yeah, it's really bad.
Just what do you want to deal with? A bunch of trains that are, canceled or not running or sit in traffic forever.
Yeah. I think it's just very congested.
Yep.
That's why. So things aren't, I think because the underground is so old,
Yeah.
the trains haven't been made longer, or the platforms haven't been made
Right.
longer, so a lot of the underground is still whatever size it was, like, God knows whenever they built it.
Yeah.
And now the population is obviously much larger,
Right.
so therefore you've just got thousands of people trying to get on the train between certain hours, so all the platforms are packed, the trains
Packed.
come packed, everything just takes longer.
It's a lot cleaner, though, I've noticed.
It is
here.
definitely
It's
a
like
lot
there's some
cleaner.
really
Absolutely.
interesting stories with the subway back in New York.
Oh,
It's
wow.
just
Yeah.
not
That would be
clean.
a whole nother
So,
episode. Yeah.
yeah.
I saw a man cooking a roast beef under his seat once, and there was a shark on another one. I mean, there's just all kinds of
Oh, no,
stories.
there's all
it's
kinds.
it's pretty filthy and weird.
It is.
I've not
exactly.
seen any of that, but I did come across a ginormous rat once.
There you go.
Walking,
There's walking
through,
down the street.
Yeah,
Walking down,
walking through a station,
Mhm.
and it frightened the life out of me because it was so big.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh,
we
they're like cats,
Yeah.
basically.
I mean, you see little mice running around the underground
Yeah.
here, but they're quite
No,
small.
these are-
they're not that frightening. This thing was huge. It
These
was
are city
literally
cats.
a cat.
Absolutely.
I thought, what the hell?
Yeah.
What is this?
Welcome to New York.
Did you ever see that clip of the rat in New York City walking
Which
down the
one?
stairs with the pizza? It was like a slice of pizza
Oh,
in his
I don't
mouth.
know.
It's
That's
just-
disgusting.
no.
I choose,
There's a-
I choose
That's what I'm
not to watch.
saying. The tube here is much nicer.
Much cleaner. I will definitely
It might
concur
be
with
packed,
that.
but
Yeah. Well, you guys do have everything bigger. Your
Yeah.
rats are bigger. Your pizza
Our portion
slices are
sizes.
ginormous.
Our portion sizes,
Yeah.
yes,
So
everything.
everything's just kind of
Yeah.
bigger.
Mhm.
Sometimes better.
It's
Sometimes
not. I was just gonna
but
say
generally
not.
bigger.
Yeah, it's not,
Not
always
everything's
better.
about the size.
Mm-hmm. Not everything. Kelly.
I'm not going to
Yeah.
comment on that one.
I don't even know if I agree with that statement. I'm just saying it because it seems apropos.
So, you said you dated some English British
Yes.
men. So, what was that experience like for an American? Were you kind of like, these people are weird?
No, well,
What
it's
was
funny.
it
It's
like?
funny. I actually feel like really fortunate that I've dated, and there's only been 2, but still, I feel like I've learned a lot from them about the culture and everything, and also from my friends that have been here. But the first man, actually, he British, but he lives in Bermuda, so he also had a bit of culture that was more islandish. In
Yeah.
addition to, he was in the British Army and all that, and he lived out here for a long period of time, but. A lot of things like eggs and soldiers and Sunday roast
Oh,
and like
yes,
all
yeah.
of those things and a lot of phrases and stuff I kind of picked up from him.
Yeah.
And the last one that I dated was when I moved here in May, and I was here 3 weeks and met him at
Yeah.
a pub in my town, and we just kind of clicked and went out for a good 3 months. But I think the one thing that's different from dating them versus American men is that the communication levels are just, these English men are awful at communicating their feelings, whereas
Yeah.
American men, like any relationship I've had,
Yeah.
has just been like very communicative, and we're talking about, I'm upset with you because of this, and
Yeah.
then there's dialogue and there's
Yeah.
reciprocity in something, but it's
Yeah.
like I kind of feel like there's this whole thing in England where they just ghost you, and that's perfectly acceptable, whereas
Yeah.
at home it's just not.
Yeah.
And like
yeah. Yeah.
there's kind of like
Yeah. I mean, I can see that. I think that's generally a very British thing.
Mhm,
We have that whole stiff upper lip thing going
Yeah.
on. So it's not just the men. Just as a general,
Culture.
culture. We're kind of a
Right.
little bit more reserved,
Guarded
yeah,
or-
guarded,
Mhm.
and don't share as much,
Right,
and don't
exactly.
talk as much, and
exactly.
that kind of
They
stuff.
just just drink it away
Yeah.
versus talking about it, which is
Yeah,
funny.
Yeah.
But it was funny because the last one that I was with, the most recent one, there was a situation where I was really upset because I felt left out of a situation, and I really, was hoping that I would be included in it. And I was like, oh, I don't know how to talk to him about this because I was really worried about coming across as this psycho American girlfriend, and that's
Yeah.
exactly what I didn't want to be.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, I really need to communicate my feelings because I can't keep it bottled up. It's just going to be
Yeah, of course.
awful
yeah.
in the end. So I kind of gathered my thoughts and then put it all through a text, but it ended up being this novel.
I think it's a girl thing. I don't think it's an American British thing. It's a girl
Like a
thing.
5-page text message. Well, I bet he looked at it and thought,
And
"Oh
then
my
it
god,
was-
this American girl is crazy."
That's why I was laughing. So then I'm talking to our mutual friend Brenda, and who's also our friend Brenda's from New York, but is engaged to an Englishman over here now, and I was like, I know he thinks I'm nuts. And she was like, and after he read it, he's like, wow, you're really good at communicating. And she was like, oh, you over communicated. He thinks you're nuts. He thinks you're crazy. You're psycho. And I'm like, I know.
Oh my God.
I'm like, what do I do? And
Yeah.
she was like, just, this is just how we communicate back at home. It's
Yeah.
just normal
Yeah.
for us. Whereas here,
Yeah.
it's just a totally different story.
Yeah, you guys definitely talk more in general, I think.
Yeah.
You have like the whole going to a therapist thing is quite normal.
Yeah.
It's not considered anything. Whereas
Right.
here, until recently,
Really?
people didn't even talk. Like if they did go to a therapist, which is quite rare, they
Yeah.
wouldn't ever tell anybody about it. It wasn't. Whereas in the US, I remember 15, 20 years ago when I
Yeah.
was there, and everyone I spoke to, they're like, oh, my therapist said, and I used to be like, why are you seeing a therapist? Are you
know,
crazy?
it's like,
Right?
right?
And I would get freaked out because people would be like, I'm seeing a therapist, and I'd be like, Mum, everyone has emotional issues in this country. Like, what is wrong with these people? Why are they all seeing therapists? And then I realized that was just a very normal.
It is.
Very. It's like
everyone's
having
got one.
a hairstylist. It's like
Exactly.
my hairstylist slash
dentist.
my dentist
Yeah.
slash, oh, and by the way, my therapist.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
so commonplace. But I
Yeah.
had no idea.
Yeah.
It wasn't until more recently in Britain.
Yeah, until
Oh.
literally a couple of years ago when mental health issues became
Yeah,
a big thing, because
yeah,
there was a
yeah.
lot of people committing suicide and,
Of course.
lots of young people,
Yeah.
having problems, and I guess people wanted the NHS to invest more in mental
Mhm,
health services and things like that, so it became very much, highlighted issue.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, lots of famous people came out and kind of talked about their own, depressions or issues that they
Yeah.
may have faced to try and influence people to be more open about,
Yeah.
problems that they mental health issues that they may have. But until recently, it was just never talked about. Like, I never saw or heard anyone talk about it. And probably most people, if they had to see a therapist, it would have been because they were beyond, like with you guys, because it's so normal, people don't
Yeah.
even need to have a problem to see a therapist. It's just like a normal,
Right.
like a checkup almost.
Yes.
It's like
right?
exactly.
Yeah, here
Yeah.
it's kind of people go to the therapist once they're like,
Yeah,
really,
a dire need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Build in.
yeah,
Yeah.
basically
Yeah.
when they have a big issue
Yeah.
that they,
Yeah.
they can't quite figure out how to get around themselves. I guess it gets caught at a much later stage in someone's mental health here. So that's why I think lots of people were, wanting to highlight this and wanting the government to, invest more in this and the people to be a little bit more open about
I like
talking
that
about
though.
it.
Yeah, because it shouldn't be like shunned upon, and I think it's brings awareness to exactly your point that mental illness and even things like depression, like it's so commonplace now. And if we can be open and accepting of it, then maybe it can help
Yeah.
eradicate.
No, definitely. But as I say, it's such a new concept here.
Right.
It's a relatively new thing, and even now, I know quite a lot of people that wouldn't openly, discuss if they're
Right.
seeing anyone
They wouldn't
or
tell
not.
anyone.
Yeah.
So,
Because you might get judged.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And interestingly, what you were saying about British guys not able to share their feelings, most of the people with mental health issues that result in suicide or anything like that tend to be men.
Mm.
Here, there is a much
Really?
higher number of men that commit suicide or have,
compared to other countries.
compared
or-
to women in this country.
Compared
I'm
to
not
women,
sure
yeah,
about
yeah.
other countries. I wouldn't like to comment.
Yeah.
But I would suspect that it could
Yeah.
well be.
Interesting.
Yeah. So.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah.
Hopefully men will work on communicating their
Yeah.
feelings more and work
Yeah.
through that here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
I think it's
definitely
like most men, I think, depending on doesn't really matter what culture or whatever, but I think they're just raised to be more masculine, right? And if
Yeah.
you share your feelings, then it emasculates you.
Yeah.
And I think that probably as you get older,
Yeah.
prevents them from being so expressive and
Yeah.
communicative.
Well,
Yeah.
there's also the cultural thing of British people are just very proper and don't
Yeah.
want to, show that side of them or show that they have any
Yeah.
kind of weakness, if you will. And
Yeah.
there's also, they're just indirect too, whereas we're just more direct in general.
That's true.
It's just a cultural
that's true.
difference,
That's
so-
true. I think maybe that's also, what we were saying at the beginning about the overexcitement that you guys
Right.
have, and then we're kind of like, what is happening? Why are these people
Why are they so
why are they so
excited?
happy? Yes.
Right.
It's kind of
What's in their water?
Yeah, what's
Fluoride.
going on? Yeah. So I think that also is, even when we're happy, we're not quite so,
Yeah.
I
You
think
don't
we
show
just
expressive.
it. You don't show emotion
Yeah.
as much.
Yeah.
Very proper, reserved,
Yeah.
polite.
Yeah,
Yeah.
There's definitely the whole polite thing.
Yeah.
We do tend to do a lot of excuse me and sorry.
Right,
and
yeah.
pardon me
And there's that whole, just the way, what's that? There's like even a chart if you Google it, and it's like things that Brits say and what it actually means and the way Americans take it.
yeah. Oh,
And one
really?
of the and one of them was when you guys say that's interesting, and we take it as like, oh, they think I'm interesting. We really know they think we're nonsensical and
Yeah.
batshit crazy and just completely out of our minds. Like I think I applied for a job, or it was at a recruiting firm that one of my friends had recommended, but it wasn't really right for me. But still, I sent it in anyway and told her my story. And she writes back, well, thanks for the color around that. That was really interesting. And I was so like, in my head, I'm like, what? Like, I was so mad. I was like,
Thanks for the color. Okay.
I got so angry. And I was like, I'm not even going to respond because there's no point. Meanwhile, any other American who read that would be like, oh, you think it's interesting? Let's set up a time to talk.
She's like, I'm busy for the next 6 years.
6 years,
Don't
yeah.
call me again.
Oh, God, that's quite funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I dated some American guys. I mean,
Oh.
I'd say my experience mostly was in New York, and I feel like New York
Well, that's a different
is
breed.
different place.
Yes,
yeah,
completely.
compared to a lot of the rest of the US. I did obviously, whilst I was there, spend some time in LA and Miami, and I went to Minnesota. And,
Okay.
I travelled about a little bit, and I went to Minneapolis and Texas and all kinds of places.
Yeah.
So, but most of my full-time experience was in New York, and I did feel like wherever I went in the US, New Yorkers were totally different.
100%.
And it's kind of like I loved New York, I loved living there, and I loved the people there, but I can't say I felt like that about lots of other sort of American states or towns. It's quite interesting. Maybe it's because I'm from London, and New York is very similar.
It is.
There's
Lots
a lot
of different
of-
people,
yeah.
from lots of different backgrounds. It's like a melting pot.
Yeah. High energy.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't particularly like LA. The only thing that made it bearable was that I was staying with friends, and
Right.
I was doing some work there, and the people that surrounded me were great and like-minded. But generally, I found LA really bizarre. And
Yeah.
That's an interesting word.
well, everyone just seemed very over the top, kind of fake.
Yeah,
And
superficial.
obsessed with
Yeah.
like things, like very superficial things,
Yeah.
but on a continuous,
Mhm.
level.
Yeah.
You can see by the way people look. It's like everyone's had something done to something, and
Right.
it was
Yeah.
all just very. And I was kind of like, oh my God, you guys need to spend some time on something other than
And
Yeah.
the
Oh,
way they
yeah.
talk too is different. Like New York, our tones are just
Yeah.
very flat, and like
Yeah.
we get to the point, and that's it. In LA, it's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And there's always like this, scoop
That's
in
the
their
valley.
voice, the valley, and
I'm actually a native LA.
Oh really?
I'm
sorry.
I'm not.
It's okay.
So Chris
It's-
may quit her co-hosting job by the end of this episode.
No offense taken, actually. So I'm a native Angelino, but I actually identify myself completely as a New Yorker. And so I totally agree with you
Yeah.
that like all the sentiments that you just shared, I completely agree.
Yeah.
There's a certain level of, like, no offense, there's a lot of wonderful things about it, but there is certain levels like superficiality because
Yeah.
I think the two main, the main industry fueling LA that we all know and recognize is Hollywood.
Yeah.
So it's all that. And then, I think the level of diversity is just not the same.
Yeah.
So until I went to New York and, met people from all over the world and even just, interest-wise, people in New York are someone's, interested in the arts or music or this. And
Yeah.
so no offense, totally agree with you.
Yeah. I found it difficult spending time
Yeah.
in LA. So I was there at one point for a continuous period of 6 months. which I found excruciating. You know, as I say, the only thing that made it bearable was the people that I was with.
And the weather's good.
The weather is amazing.
Yeah.
But weather aside, because even in New York, the weather is amazing compared to London, you know, or back then, because you guys had like all seasons. So
Yeah,
I
we do
remember,
get the
you
4
know,
seasons.
yeah, snow in the winter, and you know, really nice and sunny and warm in the summer. And so I used to think that was great, the fact that you could see all the seasons and feel them all. You know, the leaves change color and all this sort of. Here things happen very fast. It's like really hot and then freezing cold, and there's no snow, and it just rains all the time, and it's just a bit gray.
Yeah,
depressing.
Well, we have the
very
extremes in the weather. When it's hot and sunny in the summertime, we have really, really high heat and humidity, and then it's like you go inside to work and you freeze your ass off with the AC on.
Yeah.
Whereas here it's just more tolerable.
Yeah.
And then in the winters it just drags on forever, and we get like 3 feet of snow. And
But I used
you
to
know,
like that. I used to like
I
that.
like it too, but once
Yeah,
it gets
because
into
I
February,
used
it gets
to like
depressing.
Exactly.
The fact that, you know, you had snow in the winter, so it felt like winter,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and then it was really
Oh,
hot in
yeah.
the summer, so it felt like summer.
Right.
You know, here sometimes it all kind of morphs into one.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
there's just a lot of rain, but not really that much of much else. And even though, I mean, I'll be fair, the you know, global warming and all that, last couple of years it's been warmer than it usually
Seriously.
is, and not raining as much, other than a couple of the flash floods that we've had. But
Right.
you know, I think that's just weird weather. But traditionally, that's not really been very British.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I loved New York. I was gutted when I had to leave. So even though I don't think I can take it now.
No, you don't think so?
No, I mean, I think I'd like to go and, you know, have a holiday
Short
and see,
spurts,
and see people and see things that I haven't seen in a long time. But I'm not sure I could live there now because it was very fast paced.
Yep.
Yeah.
And because I was young, you know, that was like my thing. So
Yeah.
that was perfectly fine by me. And I like that the lifestyle was very different to here. So, you know, all the restaurants are open till later. You kind of, everyone eats later, everyone does things later, and you know, you don't kind of have that, like here on a Sunday after 6 p.m. nothing's open.
Right.
Oh my god, I just experienced that.
Yeah. So you have to go to, like, you know, W1, you know,
Right.
where all the tourists are, to find anything open. And even then, I would suggest probably on the Sunday after 11 o'clock, probably even
Right.
that area, you know, slowly kind of shuts down. Whereas for me, you know, New York was kind of similar to, because I obviously come from Turkey, and you know, we're all out all the time. There are people on weekends with their kids at 2 o'clock in the morning eating ice cream, and you know, you can find a place to eat ice cream at 2 o'clock in the morning. Here, if you wanted to have some cake and coffee at 2 a.m.
Not gonna happen.
No.
No. Another thing I noticed is that in the pubs and in the or bars here, when they call last call, it's like they really like sit there and watch you drink your last drink, and I'm like, okay, I'm going. Just give me a minute, you know. It's like really they get intense about it. Whereas at home they call last call, but it's like they'll give you time to drink it and not kick you out. So that's a thing here.
Yeah,
It's
it
kind
is.
of funny.
I think it's because probably though we do kind of drink it a little bit more. You
Definitely,
know?
it's
So
a drinking culture.
I think that if they didn't do that, you know,
Right.
probably no one will go.
Yeah.
Because there are people buying like 2-3 pints at a time, you know, and
Right.
and this kind of drinking you probably don't see anywhere other than maybe Germany. You know, even in Europe, you know, everybody drinks, but they're very. The French or even the Spanish, you see them with their tiny little. It's not
Right.
even a pint. It's kind of like, you know, 250 milliliters of beer. You know, on a Monday afternoon, sitting in the sunshine and reading a newspaper and drinking
Right.
this. So it's an enjoyable experience.
Right.
Here, people go out to get drunk.
Right.
And they say that, you know, we're going to
No,
go and
just
get
with
pissed.
pride.
You know,
Yeah,
you're
no,
like,
they say it with pride.
"Why are you
Yeah.
gonna do that?"
Well, and
So-
New York's like that too, though. New York has some similarity. I think it depends on what industry you're in. In the agency world, we get pissed. And I mean, it was like every day for lunch, we'd go and have like 3 glasses of wine and then go back to work and then go back for happy hour and have more drinks. And it was like...
Yeah, I mean, maybe it is an industry. I was in the music and fashion and the arts, and people didn't drink that much because a lot of people were very health conscious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, everybody was kind of down the gym and all that kind of stuff. And alcohol wasn't such a big
Right.
like thing. You
Right.
know, they would go out partying.
Yeah.
You know, don't get me wrong.
Right.
All kinds of parties.
On other stuff, maybe.
And some other stuff, yeah. And sometimes drinking too, but
Yeah,
just not
yeah.
not like, you know, the thing. You know,
Right.
we wouldn't
Yeah.
go out to get drunk. You
Right.
would just be out, and if you happen to be out till 6 a.m., you might get a bit drunk.
Mhm.
Inevitable. But,
Yeah.
you know, I don't think it was kind of like, you know, the main driving force, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but that's why I like the lifestyle so much, I think, because it suited me. It reminded me a little bit of sort of other parts of Europe,
Right.
where you just out later and people are kind of enjoying, you know, socializing more and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So here it's a bit different. Past a certain time, it's bedtime.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or
I know.
not, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lights out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't even get a bottle of wine yesterday. I went to a lovely dinner party, and I just had gotten back from Royal Turnbridge, and it was only like 4 in the afternoon. And my building has brand new M&S downstairs. And it was 4 in the afternoon. I was expecting to walk into M&S for a bottle of wine, and it was closed. I'm like, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, but
Thank goodness there was
Sunday-
a co-op or something across the street that was open, and you can actually get wine anywhere here though.
Yeah.
So it worked out, but I was a bit perplexed. I'm like, it's 4 in the afternoon, and I'm so used to everything in New York
And who are these
Right.
being
people throwing
24
a dinner
hours.
party on a Sunday evening? They must not be British.
Actually, the guy was British, but
Okay.
the girlfriend is Colombian.
That's why.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was her idea, not his.
It was her idea. It was.
I was gonna, because Sunday's all about the roast here, so.
So when she said to him, by the way, we're having a dinner party on Sunday at 5 p.m., he was like, what?
Yeah.
What's wrong
Really?
with
So
you?
that's an oddity. That's so funny that you called it, Eve. Absolutely. It was the girl was not British.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. No, we don't do things like that.
Yeah,
you
Sunday's
know.
more of a day. Actually, it's like that at home too. It's just that we don't do roasts. We do Sunday brunch.
Brunch,
It's more
yeah.
about like everyone's eating eggs and omelets, and there's Bloody Mary stations and mimosas, and that goes on forever too, because American football is like a religion.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, which I could
Yeah.
never get myself
Yeah,
into.
it's not. I'm actually one of the guys I was dating
Yeah,
that was British. Really got me into European football,
yeah,
and took me to a game in Manchester, which I
Yeah.
loved.
yeah.
And then I was like hooked.
It's much shorter than your games. You guys, your games go on forever. Cause
Yeah,
you
well, they
have, like, it's
stop.
like a
They
show,
stop.
right?
They
It
go. They
is,
go for like a
yeah.
few minutes and they stop, and then it's like.
Yeah.
Whereas like European football, it's like
Yeah.
these guys
And then
are
I
just
heard that
running
like on
forever.
Sunday though, it's like every team is playing.
Yeah.
So they'll literally watch it from like 10 a.m. in the morning until like whatever, because there's so many games
Yeah.
going on. I don't know. I can never be part of it. Just
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I miss my time there now.
Yeah.
So what was your wait? I think you were gonna mention though your dating experience
Oh,
with
yes, I
American men
started
though.
with that, yeah.
Yeah.
So I had a
Curious.
few interesting dating experiences.
Yeah.
It's weird because generally, as I say, English people are a little bit more reserved as a
Mhm.
general kind of thing, and Americans we think are of being less reserved. But
It's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah, I found when dating, it was like a totally different ball game. So here we don't really date, really.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, I mean,
Yeah.
you kind of go on a few dates, but then you know you kind of slowly are in a relationship with somebody, and it happens relatively
Quickly.
Yeah.
Yep.
And once you're kind of past the few, you know, meetings that you may have, you know, it's either gonna happen or it's not gonna happen. In the US, there's like this whole dating thing, and it's very, to me, it felt very traditional, you know.
Yeah.
So I would meet these guys, and they'd be like, "Do you want to go out on a date?" And I would be like, "Okay, great. Just tell me where and when, and I'll tell." "Oh no, I'll come and pick you up from your building." And I used to be like, "Really? It's a bit strange." And I remember the first time someone asked me on a date, and I said, no, I'll meet you there. And he kept insisting. He was like, "No, I need to pick you up." And I'm like, "No, I'll just meet you there. Just tell me where you want to meet, and I'll meet you there." And he just kept saying, no. And he was a friend of somebody that I worked with and was friends with. So I actually called my friend Waleed, and I was like, this guy's like asked me for a date, but he's really insistent that he needs to come to my house to pick me up. And I said, it's really weird. Can I trust him to come to my house? Because normally I wouldn't want a guy that I've just met who's going to take me on a first date to come to my home. right? Because I wouldn't want them to even know where I live.
Exactly.
I may not even like you, right? You might be a weirdo for all I know. So I said to my friend, like, is he safe? You know, should I say yes to this? Because he's very insistent. And he said, oh, yeah, he's fine. And that's just the American way. He's just trying to be chivalrous. You know,
Chivalrous,
it's not a, he's just trying to be a gentleman. He wants to come
Uh-huh.
pick you up. And the likelihood is he's going to drop you off.
Yeah.
But you need to not think that him dropping you off means he wants to come in and, you know, anything's
Yeah.
going to happen. Because in
Attack.
England,
I mean,
you know,
he
they're
does,
like,
but-
let me take you back home. You know, that's like a
Right.
sign for, you know, let me come into your house
Right.
and spend the night with you.
Yeah.
So generally, if a guy is kind of saying, I'm going to take you back home, you might be a bit like, I don't think so.
Right.
Thank you. Not tonight. But in the US, it's not like that. So I found that whole thing, I mean, it was actually quite nice because I had all these guys coming and picking me up
Yeah.
and I was like, oh my God, I feel
Wait,
so
where were
good.
you finding it? Because I've never had a guy in New York like volunteer to pick me up.
Really?
Oh my God, literally
No.
everyone I
I've had,
dated.
like,
But I
limos.
Yeah,
I've had,
I had
like,
that. I mean,
Oh,
one guy...
good for you.
Gifts galore. Like, yeah,
I mean, one
it's
guy
definitely
sent
a
me a
thing.
car. You know, he's like, I'm
exactly.
sending you my car.
Exactly.
And I was like, okay, is it driving itself? Like, how are you sending me your car?
Your chauffeur, you're just
Yeah.
going to send him.
So I thought that was really, really good. And
Yeah,
it's not
no, it's
even-
very gentlemanly. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, here it's not even a financial thing. You know, it's not even like...
I
it's a
actually
guy.
don't
Yeah,
even
it's a
like,
cultural
yeah,
thing,
I don't
yeah.
even like that. Like, I don't even expect it anymore. Like you, if they were to ask to like pick me up, I would immediately be like, no, let me just meet you there.
Yeah.
I don't need you to know where I live,
Yeah.
especially because I don't even know if I'm going to be attracted to you, like you, or find out you're some like crazy wacko.
Yeah.
You know, so.
But you have
I
that
didn't
whole
mind
kind
it. I kind of am,
I liked
I'm
it.
an old school.
Maybe you're old school.
romantic, and I
Yeah.
really like the.
They can drop me off.
And they will...
No,
Once-
they can pick me up too.
Yeah, for you. No, I don't like to be picked up.
I
Yeah.
found them just generally more reserved when it comes to dating. You know, like nobody, even if someone liked me, they wouldn't necessarily make that move
Right.
until we've met a couple of times. You know, here it's not quite like
Right.
that. I mean, some guys on the first date, they're like, oh, and you're like, get off. What are you doing? You know, I don't know you.
Just got
Like,
attacked.
yeah, exactly. Stay away. I just found them more reserved and more gentlemanly and, you know, a little bit more traditional almost. And
Yeah.
Well, we like to label things, that's for sure. I was briefly dating a guy that I met in Mykonos when I moved here, and he was shocked to hear like the word dating. He's like, yeah, that doesn't exist in our vocabulary. And I was speaking to some other girlfriends of mine, and she totally said the same thing. Like, we don't label things, and I think Americans, like, we're so used to and wanting, especially as a girl. Okay, so after we've been on like X amount of dates now, we're seeing each other, and then after you see each other, we're dating, and then we have the exclusivity talk.
Yeah.
So it's like a whole like stage and process. When I here, I feel like it's more
We
fluid.
We jump stages though.
Or you
We're
jump
just kinda
stages.
Like, I like
it.
you. I'm
Yeah.
gonna take you out. Okay, then let me kiss you. Maybe. All right, we're in a relationship.
That's
You
what
know?
it was, yeah, for me.
And generally, we don't have this like I guess dating in the sense that you have it in the US, where you know a woman could be dating 5-6 guys, right, at the start because she doesn't know which one she's gonna like. It's not even. I mean, it effectively just means going out and having dinner together. Or something. It doesn't mean anything relationshipy just yet. Whereas here we kind of don't have that stage. You're either just friends or acquaintances, and then you suddenly are in a relationship.
Right.
Yeah. So that
that's
little
funny,
bit in
yeah.
the middle doesn't really
Doesn't exist. It's
Yeah.
funny because the last one that I was dating, or whatever we want to even call it, but it was like because of where I'm from and what I'm used to, it was sort of like I don't really know what we are, and like all my friends were like, no, like you're his girlfriend, and I'm like, I am, like I don't even know. So I had to have that conversation, like what are we? And he's like, we're together. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, just wanted to clarify
News to
that.
me.
I just didn't realize, because it's like back at home, everyone dates like multiple people at once, and it's like this thing, even though that was never really my style. It was always like in a relationship, then another one. And it was like, I just don't know. You never know what to expect here.
Yeah.
And then, I dabbled with Bumble or whatever for a little bit, and it's the one thing that I noticed is different, and I'm going to go back to this, is that like, you get ghosted.
Yeah.
at home guys don't ghost you ever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there was some guy that I started talking to briefly, not even getting into it too much, and it was like, oh, do you want to chat tomorrow? No problem. And then the next day he sends me a message, well, meet me at this place at 3. And I'm like, I write back, I said, I thought we were chatting, meaning like you were going to call me, question mark, and then he just deletes me and blocks me. And I'm like, what happened? Like, I have no idea what just happened there.
I mean, the whole online dating thing to me is a bit of a weird mystery, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you know, when I was in New York and dating, online dating didn't exist.
Right.
And then I guess once online dating did exist, I was no longer single for a long time. And now I'm single again, but I just still can't quite get my head around the online dating thing. You know, I'm still kind of like, I'd like to do it old school. You know,
I
if
like
I meet
meeting
someone
someone organic.
There's
and
something
I like
nice.
them, I just don't understand, like some of
I
the
don't like
weird.
it.
I did go and put my thing up, which I actually read on season 1, one of the dating episodes on season 1. We talked about it, and one of the ladies that was a guest actually was saying that she had something she called the Book of Bumble. So she would screenshot these weird messages that people would send her, and then just like put them into like a little, you know, bundle of strange things, and she would get like the weirdest things. Like proper, you know, rude messages and just very strange things from people that she's never obviously met before. So
it's the wild, wild west out in the online dating world.
I don't understand it.
Yeah.
I have to be honest. I think it's a bit strange.
I do too.
And there's so many of them now.
Yeah.
So many apps. Like I just know like 2.
Yeah.
But like there's even like apps for a specific type.
Yeah.
Like in New York, I know like J dating is very popular in the Jewish community, and then there's even like the Christian whatever. I can't keep up, but there's something for everyone.
Yeah, I know. It is.
So how, like, there's this lost in translation and related to dating.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you, Eve, if you were to describe to your friends that you saw a good-looking man, what would you say? Because I just learned something this weekend and I was so confused.
Good looking,
Yeah, like
or attract, because they're to me they're different things. So you know, to me, like, you know, like Javier Bardem.
Yes,
Right?
He's dreamy.
To me, he's like one of the most attractive men on earth. You know,
Agree.
He just like oozes something, and
Masculinity
you just, like, get
and
attracted
like
to him.
yeah.
But if you just look at him, if you strip away his personality and you just look at his face, he's actually not good looking.
True. Yeah.
But he's extremely attractive.
Okay.
And I tend to get attracted to attractive people rather than good-looking people. In my head, I always think I'm going to go for, you know, this good-looking guy, whatever that is to me. But I tend to not, because the personality is like a much stronger driving force.
Of course.
And
Yeah.
some people just like ooze something. You just you feel
Yeah.
attracted to them.
Of course.
And when you take that away and you just kind of really home in on how they look, you suddenly think, actually, you're not that cute, but something about you that you know I just really am attracted to. So I have realized that that's kind of how I end up. You know, I never kind of go for the guys. You know, if you ask me, whatever I describe, I probably wouldn't end up going for that guy if he was like sitting in a bar. I'd end up going for the guy who perhaps doesn't look like that, but has like the funniest personality, and people are just generally
That trumps like looks.
Yeah.
Always.
generally attracted to.
But if
If
you
they
were
can
like,
make
if you
me
saw,
laugh, I'm in.
if you saw a good-looking man like the Brits, like what would you say to your girlfriend? Like, oh my God, I just saw a really so in the U.S. we say, like, oh my God, he's hot or she's hot.
Yeah.
What would you say?
Yeah, I think I would say that.
Oh,
too.
really?
Yeah.
Because this
fit.
girl fit. That's the
fit.
word.
No, I mean fit is very like. I think that it is like, to me it's very young language.
I was just going to say, I think a younger generation
So, you
uses
know,
it versus...
Wow.
So it's
Because this
something-
woman was not. She was like my age, our age, like in her late 30s, and so she was telling me about like this guy that she's dating or whatever, and she's like, yeah, he's really fit. And I was like, oh, okay. And then no, that's exactly where my head was going. And she's like, you want me to show you a picture? And I was like, yeah, show me a picture. And the picture is a profile picture.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I can't judge whether he's like really physically fit. So I'm like, I'm like, oh, you mean like he's good looking fit? She's like, yeah. So for a minute, I was a little confused and learning that there's still a lot of British vocabulary that I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that is definitely a term. But I would have probably have used it when I was much younger.
Okay.
You know, when I, like, pre-university, I might have kind of been like, oh, he's fit, you know, when I was in college or something.
Yeah.
But I think, like, for most people, probably when you get older, it's not a word.
Well, because I think it's like
use.
saying like, oh, you're hot or something. It's kind of like, it's not saying like, oh, wow, I find you to be really handsome. It's not like...
No, but I think
it's not
that's
like
exactly what she was describing this
Yeah.
man to be, like super hot or really hot.
I
Yeah.
think generally me and my girlfriends, we use hot and cute.
Mm-hmm.
Cute is like another thing.
Oh, but cute and hot is very different, Eve.
Yeah. Yeah. But I can't think of anyone I know who uses fit, actually. But it is a term.
Yeah. That was a new one for me. Because I'm sprucing up my British vocabulary, and I was so stumped. I'm like, huh? And I was waiting for her to like show me a picture of like his like 6-pack and whatever, and it was like a profile picture. And like in her defense, he was a very good looking man. But I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Fit?
In what way?
Yeah, in what way? His head really fits.
Well.
Yeah.
She's like, tennis got to do with anything.
So the Americans you dated, were they from New York, or they were originally from Texas, or?
No,
Yeah,
all
that's
from
very
New
different.
York.
Okay.
But they were kind of native New Yorkers
Yeah,
then? Okay.
yeah, mainly native New Yorkers. I mean, I think I dated a couple of people that were from somewhere else, but moved to New York when they were much, much younger. So they'd already been there for like a good 10 years.
And kind of well ingrained.
Yeah. But and then a lot of native New Yorkers. I don't think I dated anyone from anywhere else really. And anywhere else I visited, I don't remember meeting anyone, and kind of, you know, even that 6 months that I spent in LA, I was like, nah, none of these guys, thank you.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I can't do men from the South. The Southern thing is like too, from in the States, I mean, not. Yeah.
I mean, there was one guy, actually, I lie, in LA. Oh my god. I was like totally in love with this guy. So I was staying with my friend, and he used to write video clips for all these famous musicians. So he had a house on Venice Beach, so I was really fortunate to be staying, you know, in such a good area, even though Venice Beach is a bit, you know, because you walk up that promenade and it's all just like strange looking people.
Yeah, it's changed a lot now, but yes,
it used to be kind of
it's
like
very hipster and cool now. But yes, back in the day, it was a little sketch.
Yeah, and he had this big Cadillac, like old school Cadillac. So 3 people could sit on the front seat, because it's like one long seat. Like
I love it.
So it was all very groovy. And this guy was, what was he, a surfing world champion or something
Okay.
like that. Who's that actor? Have any of you guys watched NCIS or whatever it's called?
I haven't.
Okay,
No.
so there's no point in describing, but he was kind of like mixed race, very tall, obviously physically fit, because he was a sportsman. Right?
Yeah.
And he had piercing green eyes, and he looked a little bit like Lenny Kravitz.
I was just gonna say,
he had this
and like
like
thinking of like
really-
Jason Momoa or
and he had
sounds
this
hot.
like grungy but like very sexy, you know, and
Yeah.
you're like just staring at him with like drool hanging out. So I was like totally in love with this guy, but so much so that I could never say anything. You know, when you just like someone that little bit too much that you can't even pluck up the courage to like say anything to them. So so that was my only real person that I probably fancied, but I don't think fancied.
Oh yeah, I definitely know that one.
But I don't think that he was, even though I think he was originally from Miami, but he didn't come across like a LA Miami type of person, right?
So he was tolerable.
Yeah, he was much. He liked art, and, you know, things like that. So I remember going to lots of. We used to go to all these like Mexican art movies together.
Ooh, that sounds cool.
And there was this like little cinema somewhere with the old school seats. And,
Nice.
You know, and we would go and hang out in places like that, and he just knew all these very cool places. So he was just a little bit different to your traditional.
I like it. He sounds like he was a cool dude.
He was very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Was there anything lost in translation with any of your relationships in terms of like witty banter and the sarcasm? Because Brits, I really enjoy British humor. I like intelligent humor, and that's like a turn on to
I
me.
think I upset a lot of guys.
Okay.
So, because I would be very, very abrupt. I think they found me abrupt.
Right.
And actually, I remember on one date in particular, this guy actually in the middle of the dinner stood up and he said, "You were intimidating, and you are. I can't understand if you're making fun of me." Or if we're like enjoying this together, or
Right.
if you're like actually telling me to fuck off.
Yeah.
So
Oh
he
my
said,
God.
I don't know how to deal with this, so I'm going to go now.
Yeah.
And he left me at the restaurant.
Yeah.
And I remember calling my friend and being like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
And I think he just genuinely didn't understand the
Yeah.
sarcasm.
Right.
And I think my sort of abrupt, straight sort of talking, he took as criticism or
Right.
something, whereas
Yeah.
I was just saying it as it is,
Yeah.
rather than kind of like fluffing it about. If
Yeah.
that
No,
makes
yeah,
sense.
no, it's funny
But-
because I feel like the last relationship I was in was like that. But meanwhile, like I never really had a problem with any of my other British friends or even the relationship with the British man before him. But the last one, for whatever reason, he was very funny. We laughed a lot, but it was like a lot of the stuff he said to me, I would get so defensive and get so offended.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what, and I would kind of like fire back, but it was like not funny because I was actually getting offended or upset.
Yeah.
And like to this day, I still don't know, like, was he really having a go at me, and was he really being nasty and really, when I'm at a vulnerable state, and maybe he shouldn't have said that, or is it just because?
I mean, we can be quite dry.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's
But
what I
it's
don't
like-
understand is that like I never really had an issue with the other British guy.
Yeah.
That never
I mean, maybe he
happened.
wasn't-
That never. I feel like
He
he
was
could have
just-
been
yeah.
a little. He could have been a little nicer with certain things, and I feel like I could have been a little less sensitive at the end of the day.
Yeah. But I mean, he may just have been a bit of a.
He might have been a dick.
Yeah, he may have been a bit of an asshole.
A bad egg.
Yeah.
I can't believe your guy just like stood up and walked out though.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
I was
there-
quite shocked. I was like, this has never happened to me before.
he must have been really intimidating you.
Well, I think it was because I was just saying.
No, yeah.
And I think one of the things I found was the older guys, like people who took me out on dates who were much older than me, actually understood me better. The younger guys especially found it really scary. And I think maybe the older ones are just like, because they're older, they kind of take things a bit less.
Yeah, and they're not as
you know,
intimidated. I don't
seriously,
think
yeah.
of a strong woman or just
But
deliver.
I'm not even sure that it was that I was any stronger than
Yeah.
most other women they would meet. I think it's just because my delivery of things
Yeah.
were maybe different.
Yeah.
And one of my, New Yorker friends kind of said, sometimes you come across, because you're so straight talking, it comes across like you are way too confident, that it's a bit scary. And I said to him, it's not really confidence. It's just, I'm just saying what I
facts.
think,
What I feel.
without putting any kind of filter on it. So
Well, that's funny, yeah. Because I feel that's what we do.
We do as
New
Americans, yeah.
Yorkers are more direct and don't really put a filter on it, but here you guys do.
Yeah.
And somehow there's rules. The last guy was telling me, if I say this, it means this. If I say this, it means this. And and I'm like, I still don't remember what those rules are because they never made sense to me. And I'm like, and I'm just like, and he kept bringing it up every time I would misunderstand him. It's like, remember the rules. If I say this, it means this. And I'm like, I still don't get that. Like, can't you just say what you mean? Because it would make everybody's life so much easier.
Yeah. I mean, it is a confusing one, really, isn't it? It is a confusing one. But maybe I don't fit the British stiff upper lip thing that well. It could be. I definitely have friends that are way more filtered than I am.
Right.
I'm pretty much, just kind of what you see is
straight.
what you get,
Yep.
and I'll say whatever
Straight
I think.
shooter.
And I think that was probably what was a little bit scary, and maybe when I described myself as well, I mean, I might have just been very pompous, I was just kind of like, well, this is what I do,
Just own it.
This is what I am, and,
Yeah.
and I think one of my friends was kind of like, do you have to say this? And I'm like, the guy's asking me what you do. What do you want me to say?
What do you mean?
Exactly.
You would like me to lie and say, I am a cleaner. I don't know. Like, what would you like me to say?
Right.
So I'm just kind of saying, look, I came here. I opened my business. This is my company, and this is what I do.
Right.
And the guy's looking at me like, oh, really? Like, but you're only. I don't remember how old I was, like 21 or something. But you're only 21. And I said, yeah, well, just lucky, I guess. You know, I was like, I don't know what to say. I'm
Actually,
only
maybe
21.
under the surface, he was intimidated. Maybe that like he was
it's
sitting across from a 21, young 20-year-old accomplished.
He had a way more successful business than me. Yeah, so it's not like, I mean, this guy owned a massive PR firm. He was like a very successful PR firm. Making loads and loads of money. He had definitely lived in a better house and had a better car and earned way more money than my business at that time. I had literally just started setting things up. So I was nowhere near at the same sort of stage in my career as he was. And he was, a good, like, maybe 7 years older than me. So he had longer to kind of get to where he got to as well. So, I mean, it was quite surprising to me because I think at the time I just thought this is very strange. Like, I don't think I'm intimidating, really. Like, why are you intimidated? And he was like, I don't even know if you're being funny right now. And I'm like, I'm not being funny. I'm asking a question. Why are you intimidated? And he's like, is this a joke? And I'm thinking, why would this be a joke? Like, I don't understand.
That's really funny.
Clearly we can't communicate.
Exactly. It's very, very strange.
That's funny. No, I feel like I ran into similar situations though, where I'm like, I can't tell.
Yeah.
Like, and even now, even today, because of that one experience, I feel like I'm always overanalyzing what everyone's saying too, and I'm like, does that mean you mean this, but you're really saying this? Like, now I'm just constantly thinking, okay, what if they mean something else? I don't know.
Yeah.
Imagine though if you were dating someone from, I learned this whole other like language that exists here in Britain. Cockney rhyme. Oh my God! Somebody once I don't understand
that. I'm like,
so
what?
imagine.
What?
I mean, I appreciate like the musicality of it. I mean, it's very interesting, but like, I would be so lost in translation, literally.
Yeah. I mean, I think even like a lot of people who are not Cockney in this country are. But then you can say that even about like people from the north, like we all have different accents.
Right.
And,
True.
Some Scottish people like right north, and some, hardcore Irish people.
Yeah.
I don't understand what they're saying even. I'm just kind of like, you what? Excuse me? When you're
Say that
constantly
again.
like staring and what is that?
Funny.
But then you have that in the US. There were so many
We
accents
do,
in the
yeah.
US.
And there's a southern accent. I mean, even
My
like
least favorite.
no, my least favorite is like the Bostonian.
Okay.
And like
I don't know what. I've been to Boston.
Paktika. They
Yeah.
don't pronounce their R's.
That's
Park.
pretty good, yeah.
Paktika.
She nailed it.
That doesn't bother me.
Oh, it bothers me. And like the Long Island, like, or the Bronx accent.
The Long Island bothers me a little
Ooh.
bit.
Yeah, it's a little nasally or something. You're good with the accents. But it's not-
Yeah, the Long Island one's just very like Long Island.
Yeah,
It's very like
something like that. Well, and like
It's not attractive.
and as you were like kind of pointing out earlier, the Valley accent of Californians, we like
we talk
it's so
like
fun.
this.
Okay, so that's over exaggeration.
That's what it sounds
That's
like to people
clueless.
here,
Everything
though.
sounds like
It's
a
like-
question. Though,
Yes,
right?
because we like lift, like
Yeah.
kind of like
Yeah.
have a higher pitch at the very end. But it's funny because like when I first moved to New York, people would immediately recognize, oh, you're from California. And I'm like, what gave it away? La, la, la.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, it's like just keep talking. It's like exactly what you sound like.
This is the first time I met you. We went to that Spanish tapas bar and we sat down, and the bartender comes up to us and says, "Have you ladies been here before?" And I said, "No, we haven't." She blurts out, "Oh my God, no! Tell us everything!" And like there was two couples next to us that just started like snickering a little bit, and I'm like, "Oh, she's not from around here."
We get very enthusiastic. That's just me.
So have you guys found anything else culturally strange or different since you've been here? Other than the language and, are slightly sort of more reserved, stiff upper lip, less excited.
Everyone's
about,
judgmental about Botox.
Yeah.
Everyone at home is like, oh, where do you go? And then here it's like, how insecure are you? You really have to get that done and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like a thing where everyone's like, did you see her face? And it's like a thing where nobody likes to,
yeah.
Very natural over here.
I haven't come across
Back
that.
at home, it's like we'll exchange numbers on, well, you should see my dog.
Yeah.
But I've almost killed myself, like probably a handful of times because I
saved her twice.
still, yes, thankfully Kelly has saved me twice because I still, Eve, cannot catch myself looking in
The right direction.
the right direction. So I've literally have lifted my head up and I've like had cars like swarm by me like this quickly. And now, thankfully, I'm a little bit more aware, reading the signs, thankfully, that says keep right, keep left, whatever. But, even trying to get into a car. Like, every single time I'm going on the opposite side to get into the car, whether it's a cab, my friend picking me up, a guy dropping, whatever.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, you ready to drive? I'm like, no, I'm just clearly
That is
not
Have
accustomed
you
yet.
found, like, the buildings different and things like that?
Well, yeah, the architecture is much
Yeah.
different, of course, but
And in terms
I like
of
it better
where
here.
you're living, your living accommodation, that you kind of like, oh my god, if I was in New York or wherever, I would have such a nicer place or not
Yeah.
so,
Oh,
or,
interestingly,
that
you
kind of
say
stuff.
that.
not so much just a nicer place, just different, certain things are different, but nothing that's massively
say-
outrageous.
Something that I've noticed. So I live in what's considered, I guess, like a modern building in North London. It's brand new, like luxury building. So there's a rooftop,
Yeah.
but the rooftop is on like the 4th floor,
Okay.
which I found to me a little puzzling because rooftop, like
I've seen that
How
at
many
home
floors
though.
is your building?
No.
Yeah.
10th.
Oh, that's a bit weird.
But exactly. So like rooftop means I'm kind of high up and I'm gonna get quite a view. So I expected rooftop to be on the 10th floor.
Yeah.
I've seen that before though, like even
Well, I
working in
haven't.
buildings, and it's like their rooftop or their is on that floor, even though there's like 30 something floors and you're on the 21st floor or whatever, and
See,
even
but that's different. So it's
like-
21st something floor. That's
Yeah.
quite high
Yeah.
up. So my point is, if I'm gonna get
Like
a
fourth level
rooftop
is
in
not
a
high enough.
luxury building, or just like
Yeah.
rooftop, I just expect it to be kind of high up. So
Yeah.
even if it was on the 10th floor, I think it would have been great. So that was a little odd. Beautiful, but I thought
But
that was a little
generally our
odd.
buildings are much shorter.
Well, exactly.
In
Yeah,
central
which I
cities
totally
anyway.
understand.
I
Yeah.
think our buildings are generally shorter in central cities,
Mm-hmm.
but then our houses, sort of more suburban houses,
Mm-hmm.
are smaller. Like you guys have huge, people who
Yeah.
live in the suburbs.
In the suburbs, yeah.
have
Not
these
New York.
Enormous, like
Lots
what
of
would be
properties
considered
with
like a
pools and-
palace.
yeah.
We're looking
Yeah.
at it like going, oh my god, these people live in a palace, and that's just like a normal house.
Yeah.
We don't really have houses like that big
Yeah.
in the
Right.
suburbs. And then our flats tend to be, I think, just shorter, and perhaps even the accommodations a little bit bigger. I lived in Manhattan and things were just tiny.
Tiny.
Yeah.
Tiny.
Oh, you live in
tiny.
shoeboxes in
Yeah.
Manhattan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very small. So that was the thing that I found. I thought, I'm in a luxury building. Why is this flat so tiny?
Yeah.
What kind of luxury is this?
Yeah.
I don't have
Seriously,
room for
right?
anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up moving sort of slightly. I was still in Manhattan, but not so central, sort of near the Hudson River more, and having to get a 2-bedroom flat because only that felt like a normal size
normal
flat to me.
size.
Yeah, something smaller just felt like I was
Right.
claustrophobic, and I was
Yeah.
thinking,
Yeah.
how do I have people over for dinner to this
Yeah.
place? Like, this is impossible.
You
I can barely put one
It's a
seat
closet.
here. Yeah,
Yeah.
like how would you do this?
People get a little creative. The stoves are converted into like, you put your shoes in there, you can. Like,
and nobody
yeah.
cooked, so I thought.
oh,
that
you
was
don't
weird.
cook? No.
No one in
Mm-mm.
Manhattan cooked.
Nope.
Everyone I knew, like, that you would go into their
Seamless.
kitchen.
Seamless. Oh, their
Yeah.
tagline is brilliant, actually. Seamless. Their tagline is how New York City eats. And it's so true. Nobody cooks.
Yeah, so I was like the only person who cooked. So I would have these dinner parties and I would cook.
That's
My
nice.
friends would be like, oh my God, who's your caterer? This is amazing. And I was like, I cooked all of this.
Who's your caterer?
You know how to cook all this food. I thought, why is this like such a big deal?
Why is that such a big thing?
I don't
Yeah.
understand. So,
It's funny.
I found that eating out all the time a little bit after a while, like, I couldn't get used to that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like, you know, I would still eat out 2-3 times a week because that's what my friends would do. So if I wanted to spend time with them, I kind of had to.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I found
It's nice having a balance, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I could just not eat out all the time. But then it was really weird because eating out was cheaper than
Right.
grocery shopping.
That's the thing.
Yes.
It's kind of a catch-22.
Yeah.
So you're like, I'm not
Yeah,
even
it
saving
is.
money if I cook.
Yeah,
So it's kind of
I would
like,
go and buy all these things and then realize, oh my God, how much money have I spent?
Right.
You know, you can only get like 3 meals out of this. I
Right.
could have ate 10 times.
Exactly.
You know, with the same amount
yeah.
of money.
No, it's
And
true.
your produce here are so much better, though. I feel like,
Yeah.
at least compared to New York.
Compared to New York.
Yeah. And
yeah.
grocery shopping for me has been so much cheaper. Like in New York, everything is like 5 times higher.
Yeah.
And it was actually alarming. I didn't realize how expensive New York is. When I recently went back in September to officially move out of my old apartment, my brothers were visiting and we went to a local coffee shop and we got like lattes, whatever, coffee. And then there was a croissant for like $6. And to me, like, even though I had been living in New York for 11 years, it was so shocking that I'm like, holy cow. Because, like, here it's what, like £2 or something. But, like, it just finally, like, illuminated how freaking expensive, like, New York is and
Yeah.
everything.
It is. And then everyone's like, oh, London's so expensive. And I'm like, yep. Like,
It's actually not as
kinda used to
expensive
it, but
as
I think
Manhattan.
different
And
things
certain
are-
things, yes.
different things are. So,
Yeah.
like you said, grocery. I mean, to get good groceries, I had to go to like a Whole Foods place.
Yeah.
Everything was like excruciatingly
Yeah.
painfully
Yep.
expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But then, you know, you can get like this ginormous slice of pizza, which is the same size as an entire pizza.
Yeah.
For like $1.
$2,
You know, I'd be like,
right?
Can I have a slice of pizza? They gave me this thing. I was like, this is a slice.
Yeah.
This is like a whole pizza.
No, it's the place that was near my apartment had, I mean, it was like the size of 3 slices in one, and they would have this thing where they would take pictures of newborn babies next to the pizza because
Yeah.
the pizza slice would be bigger than the
What
baby.
pizza place is that?
Benny Todino's. So, like,
That's amazing.
I mean, I remember the first time, like, my friend and I, because she came with me when I first landed there to set up my flat and stuff, so I'd rented
Yeah.
this flat, did it, like, kind of abroad whilst I was abroad, so she came with me, and I remember the first night we had obviously nothing in the flat, and she's kind of like, oh, look, there's some brochures, like some pizza brochures here, should we just order a pizza? So I was like, fine. And she said, you know, should we get like 2 of the, because we saw the price as well, and it was like $5 or something, so we were thinking this can't be like a big enough, you know, for 5 that's like £3.50. That's, you know, you would expect
Yeah.
something really small.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
If something was £3.50, you would not expect that to be
Right.
like a family-sized pizza.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's kind of like, oh, I think these must be really small. You know, they're only $5. So should we just get 2 because I don't know how big they're going to be? So I'm like, okay. We ordered 2 pizzas. These things like half the size of this. I swear to God, it was kind of like 50 centimeters by 50
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, this is a square meter of pizza.
Yep.
At least you can freeze it.
We were very, very shocked by that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we like it kind of
Oh.
big in the States.
I was a little
Well,
bit
New
scared
York
of that.
pizza still, you can't
I
beat
do
it.
miss, I know,
Yeah.
I was just saying this at the dinner party though, I have yet to find something like comparable to a New York pizza.
Yeah,
and
I mean, I don't think
can't-
there is a
That and the
think that-
bagels.
the bagels, yeah, I'm not a big bagel
telling-
eater, but
I
like,
am,
yeah.
but, like, those were the 2 things that
Yeah.
I missed.
the best bagel place in London,
Brick Lane.
and that's about as good as it
Mm-hmm.
gets.
Have you had it? Is it
No, just I've
Okay.
heard it over and over again
Mm.
because it's traditionally a Jewish bagel that was kind of,
Yeah.
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 So
So
I
that
hear that's
place-
similar to places we would get at home, but
Yeah.
I mean, I forgot how good the bagels were. Like when I went home in August for a visit, my friend had one, and I took a bite, and I think I inhaled the whole thing. I'm like, I forgot how good this was.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the first things I did when I went back to New York in September was to get artichoke pizza.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, it's one of the famous like New York pizzas.
Yeah, it
That's
is.
also
They
like,
just opened one in Hoboken,
like
too.
the size of your head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's so worth it. And every freaking calorie of it. Yeah.
True
And
story.
I love that you had like Little Italy and Chinatown, like these areas
Yeah.
that.
Well, you do too here.
Yeah, not,
You don't think as
I actually like Chinatown better here than in New
Really?
York. Yeah.
oh, I really used to like the New York. Maybe
Did
it's
you?
like grass is greener on the other
I think
side.
it is.
Yeah,
'Cause
it
here, like,
is.
it's more spread out. It's cleaner. It's good. Like, I don't know.
I don't
It's just
know.
different.
I found the food there more authentic.
authentic.
Really?
Hmm. I told you, Eve, though, I need to find Koreatown. Or we did. It's in Malden, right?
I think
That's
we're
a
gonna
little-
have to go. I did
I'm-
check.
okay.
It's not that far.
It's not that far?
It's not that
Okay.
difficult. I
Okay.
think we need to go. We'll take our old granny trolleys.
Yes,
like
please.
an
Can we
ancestor,
take our own
And we'll just buy random things. Well, random for me. Probably things you know.
Yes.
You'll be like, oh.
I
I'll be
will.
like, what is this? Buy it.
I'll send you home with a big jar of kimchi.
Oh my god, I would love that.
There you go.
I love kimchi. Yeah.
Oh, but I'm gonna take you up on that offer.
No, we're
Because-
definitely going to do that. We're going to do that. Okay, so thank you very much for joining me. And Chris, thank you so much for being co-host this season. So
Thank
looking
you.
forward to having more of you on the show. And thank you all for tuning in. And please come back next week for our next episode. You both just kind of say something.
Something.
Hi.
Okay, very loud.
Sorry. So lower my tone.
That's fine.
Hello.